how to run a successful auction fundraiser. And I want to mention Ready Set Auction, our cloud-based auction software. So Ready Set Auction is actually a sister product to DonorPerfect, which a lot of our attendees are currently using. And it's a cloud-based auction software that allows organizations to basically run any type of auction, silent, live, online, even through mobile. We'd be happy to, talk you through a product tour. If you have any questions, you can check out readysetauction.com and sign up for a free trial there. And we actually have a special offer at the end of the webinar that we'll be sharing if you'd like to, try Ready Set Auction at your next event. So with that said, I'm happy to introduce our two fundraising experts today, Jeannie, Norris, and Bill Quain. They are the authors of Fundraising Events Made Simple. So with that, I will turn it over to Jeannie and Bill. How are you guys today?
Great, Sam. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jeannie Norris, and I'll be giving you lots of good information today, along with Bill Quain. Bill and I are actually a brother-sister team, and we have a course called Fundraising Events Made Simple. We both have combined our experiences. I'm a race director for a race that draws 1,000 people. It's called Cupid's Cranium 5K. And I'm also the director of our own foundation, which is called the At Least Kids Foundation. Have a lot of marketing experience, and combining that with Bill's experience in hospitality and auctions and other event management, we're happy to be here with you today and hope to give you lots of good information. Bill?
Hey folks, I'm Bill Quain, and thanks, Jeanine. We are a brother-sister duo here. We were going to be figure skaters. We decided to do this instead. But I actually teach event management. I'm a hospitality professional, long-standing, was a former executive chef. You'll see on my bio there, I actually was one of the directors of the South Beach Wine and Food Festival. So you talk about a huge event, really something. Worked with the chefs, Bobby Flay, and all that kind of stuff. And by the way, I actually had a TV cooking show for a while too, myself. But my job at South Beach Wine and Food Festivals was to recruit 100 restaurants a day for 2 days to come and give 3,000 portions of food out, and then service them on site. So it was a lot of fun. But I want to tell you one quick thing too about myself. I am almost totally blind. So when Sam was saying if you have any visual problems, he can help you with that. I'm going to talk to him after the webinar to see what he can do for me here. Sam, I can't wait to hear. But so you'll be hearing, we'll do this a little bit differently because Jeanine and Sam both have to give me some cues sometimes as to what our slides are saying. So, but we're well rehearsed. We're ready to go. We can't wait. This is one great topic.
Okay. Sam, if we want to advance to why charity auctions. So our agenda today will be going over a number of different things. Why charity auctions? Let's start off with that. Why charity auctions? Well, we're all here because we're nonprofits. We want to raise money for our nonprofits, right, Bill?
Well, that's right. And charity auctions are a great way to do it because people don't want to give you their money. So some do, but not many do. So what you have to do is you have to give them some reason to give money where they're getting something back. And Jeanine, we've done these a million times, and I'll tell you, I love doing the auctions because it gets people excited. I feel so much more confident in inviting people to an event where they're going to be able to participate and give way more money than they thought they were going to give me, which is for the cause, which is great. But come away with just a fantastic feeling. And I did a lot of work with hospitality organizations, meeting planning organizations, meeting professionals international, and that kind of stuff. And our auctions were always just so much fun. We talked about a couple things. Jeanine, what else did we say about why charity auctions?
One of the things we like to talk about is with auctions, people always have hope. There's always hope out there, Bill, that you're going to be the big winner, and the anticipation is everything.
Yeah, that's right. And people build this up in their mind. You know, they know these prizes are coming up and they can't wait to get them. They start talking about other people. It's like playing the lottery, folks. You know, you just get excited about it. But with auctions, one of the things that people like is they have control over it. I mean, in other words, you take a chance on something, you don't have any control. You're in the auction. The final decision as to whether you win or not is completely yours.
That's right. And with the auctions as well, the anticipation, you're already starting to think about, hey, you really want to bid on that dinner for 10 with a private chef, and you've already started to thinking in your mind, you've invited the 10 friends that are going to join you at that dinner table. So when you get to the event, when the folks get to the event, they're already excited about that. So they're in their mind, they're already seated at that table. So they're there to spend their money to make sure that they get that.
That sounds good. That's why you do it, folks. Everyone loves them.
Next, we're on to the 3 types of auctions. So I think everybody here probably knows the 3 types of auctions. We'll just mention they're silent auctions, online auctions, and live auctions.
Janine, can I say just one thing about the silent auctions?
Sure.
Folks, when you have a silent auction, you don't want to be silent. Because, you know, even though a silent auction, there's nobody bidding out loud and that sort of thing, but you as the charity, don't be silent about your silent auctions. I mean, you want to build them when you list them. And by the way, this is with Ready Set Auction and is a fantastic thing, because one of the things they help you with is how to set up your silent auction bid sheets. And folks, you want to tell a story. People love stories. It gets them excited. You know, where did this gift come from? You know, all that stuff. Oh, I just get, Jeannie, as you can tell, I get a little excited about this. But and then there's the was it online auctions, the second one there?
Online auctions. And with that, we always suggest that you spice up your online auction with photos so people know exactly what they are getting and what they are bidding on the online items, and also get reviews from previous winners. That's a real statement. If you can have last year's winners talk about what fun it was, how they enjoyed the item that they bid on. And we also talk a little bit about how folks are comfortable now with bidding, that eBay brought that to the masses in the 90s. So we've been dealing with that for a while. And with online auctions, you can also drive the excitement early, folks. So get people out there, get your information out there and really get folks excited about it.
And then there's the big daddy of them all, the live auctions, where, folks, it depends on who you have doing that auction. Now, this may surprise you, but I used to be a charity live auctioneer, and I love doing it. It's not so much a good thing. It's not such a good thing now since I've lost my eyesight. It's a little bit harder for me, but it's just, you got to have a person there who can tell stories, drive things, you know. Man, it can bid the bidding up, but it's entertainment. You know, it's giving people a show. And oh, I love live auctioning.
Okay, now we're on to the event within the event, EWTE, as we like to refer to it. In this section, Bill and I talk about building the pyramid, and what we mean by that is reducing the buyer's risk. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, Bill?
Yeah, you see, folks, people hate risk. So when they're bidding on something, you know, there's always a question about what am I actually getting with this, you know? And so what we like to do, what Jeannie and I like to suggest, is when you get a cornerstone sort of gift that you're gonna auction off, maybe, for example, like Janine, you do this with your I live in Ocean City and New Jersey, and Janine has a house down here. And Janine, we know a lot of people, and you have done it yourself, where you actually donated a week at your house for charity auctions, right?
That's right. And in addition to that, other people have donated beach chairs, day-long excursions on boat excursions, restaurant coupons, restaurant gift certificates. So for these folks, Bill, it's what the buyers are saying, it's all planned for me. So I'm just not only getting the beach house, I'm getting everything else that accompanies the beach house. So this is far less risk than I would have anticipated. So I'm going to go for this package.
Yeah, and so this is what we mean by building the pyramid here, because you take one thing, which is a base, and you add on to it. And by the way, when Janine says we discuss this, along with Sam and some of the folks at his company, we produce this ebook, which you're all getting. And so a lot of the stuff is covered in the ebook there too. But I just want to, just reiterate how important it is to do this pyramiding. And so you can get like you get one donor to donate something, and then you go to somebody else and you tell them this has been done, and you build packages together. By the way, you build cornerstone themes too. So you have a travel section, you have a hunting section. I don't know, who knows? I don't know what your audiences are, but so you can have all kinds of great things, food and entertainment, and just build upon each other. Wow, I'll tell you, it leverages your time and produces greater results.
Okay, we're on to mobile bidding. Some folks may be familiar with this, and some might just be dipping their toe in the water about this. One of the things that is popular about the mobile bidding is it saves paper, and it notifies guests that they are outbid the moment it happens through text and email alerts. It can also drive up your bids and increase engagement. On the flip side of that, what we need to be aware of is that some folks are not tech savvy, or they may be comfortable on their phones, but they're not comfortable working quickly on their phones. And if you have any doubt about that, look at any family where the parent hands the phone to their kid and say, can you look this up for me very quickly? So one of the things to consider in your mobile bidding, if you're going to be doing that, is to have volunteers from your own organization there, present and visible at the event. Now, as I stated before, we have a 1,000-person event called Cupid's Cranium. With that, we have 100 high school volunteers. They all wear the same brightly colored shirt. So we tell folks, you have a question, you go to the folks in the brightly colored t-shirt. And so they look different than anybody else, and it says volunteer on the back. Our volunteers also hold up signs that say, need help? ? So this is what you want to put milling about in your audience for the folks that really want to bid and want to bid quickly, but need a little extra help with how to go about doing it. It will make a world of difference in your bidding and your customer service.
Yeah, and we strongly suggest introducing mobile bidding, even if you take baby steps with it, just do a few items or something like that. It's a lot of fun. And it gives people an excuse to do what they want to do anyway, which gets their phone out.
That's right.
While they're bidding, they can take some time and look at videos of dogs with funny hats. So it's great. But no, seriously, it's got to be for the right audience, but you can make that audience the right audience by having volunteers there to help with people.
Well, it's also suggested that you have a laptop station for the folks that don't bring their phones with them, or again, they're busy using their phones looking at something else, or if they just want a little bit more of a comfort level. So again, you have volunteers that are staffed there with the brightly colored t-shirt saying volunteer and helping them to place the bid on the laptop station. The other good thing about the mobile bidding, which some people might not be aware of, is you can do on-site fundraising right there. So you can do a 50-50 raffle there in your audience, which is right away you're just raising a lot more money, and you didn't even need to have any expense with that as well.
Yeah, imagine that, Janine. Imagine the excitement people have. They got their phone in their hand or their tablet, or maybe they've brought their desktop with them if they're really, kind of real old. But, and now you could all of a sudden the call goes out. Hey, we're going to have an on-the-spot 50-50 drawing. Buy a ticket for it. Wow, I'll tell you, folks, it's special.
And you have your volunteers moving through the audience, helping them with that as well. Let's see, number 8. Not sure if you're not sure if mobile bidding is right for you. How do you know if mobile bidding is right for you? A few things to consider here on the slide: the demographic of your guests, the number of guests, your internet access within the venue, your number of silent auction items, the location of your guests and bidders, and the event schedule. And as Bill said, you don't need to go all in on this, folks. You can take certain parts of your auction can be mobile bidding, and take the baby steps. Bill and I like to call it moving the needle. So instead of swinging the needle from one side to the other, from nothing to all the way in, you just incrementally move that needle each year as your comfort level increases. And give yourself that experience as well as your volunteers to do that.
That's a great point, Jeannie, because folks, I want you to imagine, now I'm guessing that pretty much all of you here on this webinar have done an online auction before, or excuse me, have done charity auctions before. I've done them. I go to them all the time. I really like them. But think about this whole thing. Of course, depends upon your audience. Now, most of us, when we do a charity auction, it's not a one-time event. We're not going to just do it and then we'll never do another charity auction. We'll never do another event. What you're doing is you're growing your customer base there. Well, your bidder base there, your donor base, and over time you can grow them. And I want you to picture yourself, watering these people. And you should know your people pretty well. In other words, you should know among the regulars that you get who your high bidders are. From your historical thing, and you want to keep track of that. Yeah, I worked for the casinos for a number of years, Bally's and Caesars. Well, I won't mention the name of the actual casino, but oh, too late. Anyway, one of our jobs at the casinos is to grow our gamblers. Well, you want to do the same thing. You want to track these people. You might want to have VIP cards at the casinos. You want to know what these people are spending, and you want to be targeting people and growing them. So that's why going to a more organized auction system is fantastic, because you're tracking your high bidders. You're going to them and getting them to invite their friends to this thing. In other words, so you're specifically targeting. You're making conscious decisions here to build this. And so when Jeannie said when you move the needle, you don't want to go from 0 to 60. You want to build it over time. And so that's what this is about. And I want you to think about that. And think of what Jeannie and I are saying here, and Sam has put in front of you too. This is all about building the future of your organization, donor by donor. And, we're giving them just really important stuff here. I just love this. I'm so excited to talk about this, Jeanine. I'm going to go out tonight and bid on something. I'm just going to find a place to bid on.
Just going to find something. Okay, we're on to the next slide. So this should come as no surprise to anyone, but couples bidding together spend less money.
Yeah, like almost nothing.
And then I can guarantee a few people that would not be a surprise. So what you want to do is encourage each person within that couple, within the two-person couple, to participate on their own. Number one, they may be interested in different things to bid on, which is fun and exciting in itself. Secondly, it's just more involvement for the individual person. So instead of trying to peer over the phone and look at your spouse's, look over the shoulder of your spouse and what are you bidding on, how you do it, really try to encourage each person to get out their phone and take that on themselves and get excited about the things, the products that interest them, the items that interest them, and the packages that interest them.
Yeah, because Judy, I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's going to drive up your profits as well.
Yeah, let's think about this. Let's just go back to a second what I was talking about a minute ago about identifying bidders for your auctions. You don't want to identify them as couples. And by the way, this idea of couples not spending as much as two individuals do, this applies to all kinds of couples. And so it's kind of a mindset. What we want to be doing is we want to be identifying the actual people, not as a couple. We want to be identifying the actual bidders, and then we're going to create programs. This gets back to that pyramiding, right? Where you're creating specific programs and themes for each person in the couple. And and we're going to be sending them messages about things. So, you know, and people have different perspectives. And most couples, you know, they say opposites attract, and you see that a lot. You know, I'm the quiet one. Jeannine's the talkative one in our relationship. So, but you know, you're going to have that in almost all couples. So be aware that to raise more money, treat these people as individuals. It's a leveraging tool. I mean, I just love it. You know, when I was doing a lot of these auctions, I was down in Florida. I lived there for 20 years, and gosh, I knew who my people were. And if it was a couple, you know, I knew what trigger words I could use during the live bidding to get one of the two excited about it, and then I would concentrate on them. If they were bidding as a couple, which I didn't like, I would find the one that was really excited about what I was auctioning at that point and go after that person. So that's what you need to do, because this is big time stuff. Remember, you're in this for a cause, right? This is a charity fundraising event. It's a charity auction. You're in there to help people. You've got an important job to do here. And remember this too. I'll just say this and we'll move on. Remember that we're not tricking people into doing something here. The only reason they're bidding is because they're enjoying it. The only reason they're bidding is because they want what you've got, you know, and they're happy to do it. They're even happier to do it because it's for a good cause, but it's still all about them and what you're giving them, whether it's entertainment or the end result of what they're buying. It's so important. Okay, enough said. I pontificated on that long enough, for goodness sakes.
I think we know who the real talker is in our relationship. Our next slide is the budget for your auction event. So really the budget can vary widely depending on a few factors. One is the cost in your area. Another one, your ambitions for the event's type of style for that night, and your fundraising goals. One of the things, Bill, that we have spoken about is that you can cover all of your costs through the sale of your admission tickets.
Yeah, and this is pretty common. You know, you're going to have certain, you're going to have certain costs. You have to have a place for this thing to occur. And, you know, I wouldn't cheap out on that. I mean, I know a lot of times you get something donated, or maybe it's a school or something like that. You know, at least decorate it, you know, make it look nice. And because remember, you don't want people to be in their current thinking. You know, I was here all work all the day. I'm still I'm in somebody's work. You want to transport them. So what we do is we figure out what all those costs are going to be. And by the way, this is talked about a lot in the ebook. And then Jeanine and I, you know, we have a course which we're going to give you a special offer on at the end of this. It's a video course, Fundraising Events Made Simple. And we talk a lot about budgets in there. But so what you want to know is you want to know what your costs are. And then your admission ticket that you sell, you want to cover those costs so that everything else you generate, every other income you generate from the auctioning, from the chances people take, that kind of stuff, that's all, you know, money in your pocket. And so that's a really, and to do that, you need to know your costs. And number two, you need to know your audience as to how much you can charge them, and then bump it up a little bit. Maybe make a deal for people. You know, create VIP packages, special seating, that kind of stuff. All those will then not only just cover your costs, it will then leverage your admission price too, and give you more money for your good work you're doing with your charity.
And Bill, in that, we want to include that you want to set your fundraising goal. So we always talk about that with any type of charity fundraising event. What we don't want to say is we're just going to raise as much money as we can. We're going for the highest limit in the sky. Well, your staff, your volunteers, your committees need to know what the goal is, because you want it to be attainable, and you want it to be something that folks can reach for, work for, and attain. So that's a really important part of setting your budget, is to first know what your goal is, how much you actually want to net.
And Jeannie, remember, it's all about moving the needle. It's all about long-term growth here. Mm-hmm. It's building a solid foundation and building it year by year, where people are getting great value, great excitement, and where they belong and they're part of something you're doing. And so, set your goals realistically, because there's nothing worth to saying, oh, we're going to get the most money here we've ever gotten before, and then everybody's disappointed because you didn't get it. Be realistic, grow it.
That's right. Next, we have saving on your venue and event night accommodations. Folks, use your connections. Everybody has connections. That's what's really going to help you out in this area. You also want to make the night special. As Bill said, you don't want to be sitting in the school auditorium as if you're there at a basketball game. You want to make it festive. If that's your event, let's make it festive. It might be fun to get out of if you're fundraising for a school, it might be fun to get out of that environment and have everybody get dressed up and see all those people in a different type of light. And then Bill, you mentioned recently about an auction that you went to. It had a tent on the bay and a great restaurant next door that served and did all the catering. And what fantastic. A great event that is. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, and it was reasonable for the people. What it was, there's a great restaurant in Margate, New Jersey. And by the way, if you guys are not at the shore today, you should be. So it's a great day down here. But my wife and I went to this. It was for the Jewish Community Center. And the restaurant's called Steve and Cookies, a fabulous restaurant. And what they did, they got a pretty big parking lot there. And it was a little bit earlier in the season, so it wasn't, it was a couple months ago, so it wasn't, the parking wasn't impossible at that point. And they put a big tent out there in the parking lot. And they've done this for a couple years in a row now. Fantastic auction, silent auction and live auction, raised a ton of money. But then what they also did was they also had Steve and Cookies catered it with real nice finger foods, and then they had wineries and breweries serving their wares there. What an event! It was so exciting. I had such a great time. Of course, I bid on stuff, that I didn't really need, but I was caught up in the moment, and it's just, so it was a lot of fun. But there were some serious bidders there, and these people knew it was coming up next. They'd been there year after year, and they did such a great job. The JCC did such a great job of growing their bidders, and people knew each other in line. It was just really great. But so it was elegant. It was really elegant, but it wasn't that expensive because it was a tent, built next to the restaurant. So Steve and Cookies, and by the way, if you get to go to Steve and Cookies, have the blueberry pie. It's unbelievable. and Cookie was out there hosting people. And see, here's the thing too, folks. When you're attracting donors, and I don't know what the arrangement was with Cookie. I know she does a lot of charity work, but she got a lot out of it too, because people were eating her food and tasting it. Her restaurant was right next door. Donors get something out of this. So when you're looking for donors, look for people who donate regularly because they feel like they're getting something out of it. It was a wonderful event, Jeannie.
Well, now we're all hungry, so we'll have to move on to the next slide. Now I have a craving for blueberry pie.
And I have no connection there, but make sure to tell Cookie that Bill Quain sent you.
So now we're talking about must-have auction items. So with this in mind, we're talking about, keep in mind items that suit your audience and work with your event theme. We're always going back to the event theme, which you should have every year. And most folks do, but keep that in mind. And also items that have a high potential for income generation. So that, again, that would be the bucket list experiences, maybe a hot air balloon ride, a helicopter ride, those type of things. Prestigious sports events. We have good friends, their horse was in the Kentucky Derby several years ago. So each year they donate tickets to the Kentucky Derby. Well, who doesn't want to go to the Kentucky Derby? I think I've never won it, but I have my hat ready to go. So if I ever do win it, I have a hat to wear to the Kentucky Derby. We have dinner and culinary activities, private chef, and travel. Travel are big. That's a big auction item as well. Those are the things that are going to bring in a lot of money for your nonprofit.
And Janine, all those things, a lot of times you can improve their appeal by building the pyramid around them, right? Like we talked before with add-ons and that sort of thing, but also by appealing to the donor to give more. So, for example, at a restaurant, a famous restaurant with a well-known chef, and a great wine cellar, for example, you get the sommelier, the wine steward, to do a private tasting for the folks. Have the chef teach them how to do stuff. It always amazes me. I mean, having been a chef for many years, it always amazes me that people want to come in the kitchen all the time. It's like the last place I want to be if I'm going to enjoy a good meal. But so, we used to put a chef's table in the kitchen in a couple places where I was. And people would pay extra to sit back there and watch the busboys, steal silverware. So it was just amazing to me how, when you include them, when you give them into more depth. And here's what I want you to think about too. What have your bidders, what have they already spent a lot of money on that you can have an auction item that utilizes what they have? So, for example, golfers are nuts. I mean, they've invested in, yellow pants and green shirts and, all these golf clubs and all that kind of stuff. So they've got this stuff already. It's a sunk investment. So for them to go someplace, special to golf, that's a great thing. Now, on the other hand, though, you got to get your clubs there and that kind of stuff. So include reduce the risk. Include for them, go to an airline and make a special arrangement with the airline about, hey, give me a discount on sending the clubs out there, that sort of thing. So think in terms of those things to really build this list and have your must-haves. And by the way, must-have travel and restaurants. Must-have. You got to have it.
Yes.
Can't have an auction without that stuff.
Okay, now we're on to 3 keys to a successful fund a need. So in this slide, we talk about an emotional trigger.
Jeanine, maybe we should start with what a fund a need is for folks, just to make sure everybody's on the same page with us on that.
Sure.
Yeah. So a fund a need is basically a special call for money right at the auction. It doesn't involve auction items. It's a, hey, listen, we've got a special need. Recently we had a request for a special wheelchair for one of our, whatever happens to be, some need. We're adding a new wing to the building, or whatever. I got in trouble one time because I was at a faculty meeting and the provost said we're adding 2 new stories to the library. I asked who the authors were, and he didn't think that was funny.
It might be
everybody else did until they saw he was.
It might be
anyway,
a new van for the nonprofit. Maybe it's an animal rescue. It might be need a van to pick up the animals. Any type of special need, and this is called the fund a need time in your auction, which actually happens about 2/3 of the way through your live auction after your biggest ticket item. People are a little frustrated because they didn't get anything, Mm-hmm.
And so now they got this money burning a hole in their pocket.
So everyone's got a paddle. It's also called raise a paddle or a paddle call. And what you want to do is have people pledge at different levels. So first you're starting off with the emotional trigger, which should last about 5 minutes. And this will often involve a special story. It might involve a guest of honor who perhaps you might be a breast cancer survivor who can give a few moments of her time and say how this organization has helped them. And that's your emotional draw, and that gets people excited and really connected to the need. Through there,
that was
also
expressed very well, Jeannie, by the way. I like the way you told that. That was good.
Okay, great. And then timing is everything, as we mentioned, about 2/3 of the way through your live auction after your biggest ticket item. So folks are thinking, wow, I really want to donate money. Well, here comes the paddle call, the live call. And then prime the ask. So you want to start lining up your highest donors or who you think will be the highest bidders, and ask them when would be a good time to do it, and start with those folks. And then you can work your way through the levels so that folks can give $10. Hey, if you have 100 people giving $10, that's a lot of money for your need right there. So again, this is also an important time to have your volunteers coming through the audience, making their way through the audience and helping folks.
And Jeannie, we go into this in some great depth in the ebook too for folks.
Yes, yeah, lots of details there. Okay, we are on to the evoked set. If everybody can just take a moment and look at the illustration in front of you. And I think we can all identify with this. This goes back to building the pyramid. And it also goes back to, we've also mentioned here about branding. When folks, donors and buyers think of you, you want to be here within their evoked set. Do you want to talk about that, Bill? Yeah,
Jeannie, the picture we have up here is someone's brain, and you see there's restaurant names there. Isn't there restaurant names in that, Jeannie?
Yes, the Wild Thing Bar, Harry's Beef and Beer. Yes.
So this is somebody who was just thinking to him or herself, I wonder where we should go for dinner tonight. And what happens is some restaurants pop into your mind. Well, those restaurants have worked really hard to get in that spot. Okay. And so what you're doing, and this goes back to what Jeannie and I have been stressing again and again, and this is why we love dealing with Sam and the people at DonorPerfect, is they really get this. This is a long-term build. This is a long-term build. So you want people, because remember, people are going to go to a certain number of things a year, right? You want, when your call comes out, you want an image to pop into their mind that you had, because you build it there, you had built a personal relationship with them. So this getting into people's heads, it's called the evoked set. And you, again, this is moving the needle. This is think of yourself at the casino. You're building bidders here. These are your relationships you're building with people. This is really cool. I mean, this is where, I'll tell you, this is where you as a fundraiser can really separate yourself within your profession in serving your organization or future organizations, whatever it happens to be, by becoming the kind of person who understands this is happening.
And you want folks to have so much fun and such a great experience at your auction or your fundraising event. And they know that when it's going to happen next year. So, March is the charity auction for the Diabetes Association. I have to make sure I save time for that. February, we're in our Cupid's Cranium run is in the evoked set of 1,000 people, because every February, the third weekend, I have to go to Cupid's Cranium. It's fun. I win a lot of prizes. I might win a medal. So when we show this illustration of the head, Bill and I like to do this, excuse me, at workshops, because then we ask people to yell out what are the restaurants that immediately come to mind for them. And it's a lot of fun because everybody can think of 3 right away. And I know ours is Valley Forge Pizza. If you ask our family, where do you want to go for dinner tonight? It's Valley Forge Pizza. How great is that for Valley Forge Pizza that they're in our head. And they're the first thing that pops to mind when we ask where we want to go out for dinner. So that's where you want to reside, in the brains of these folks when they think about charity auctions and fun charity auctions.
Yeah, mine is Pierre Chardin's in Paris, a little bistro I like to frequent.
Okay, we're doing a good job on time here, so we're going to go on to, should you invest in easy to use tech? And
Jeannie, can I give the answer?
Sure.
The answer is yes.
So if you're reaching a several dozen guests, or you have 100 items to track, as Bill and I have been talking about all along, this will make life easier for you. And again, it's not something that you need to jump all the way in to the pool. You can dip your toe in. You can have some live auction items. You can have some silent auction items. You can do some mobile bidding. It's all about building your audience so that you are in that evoked set and you are building your donors year after year, and you're building your bidders year after year and increasing your audience. and increasing your revenue from the event.
And there's so much to keep track of. There's just so much to keep track of. Jeannie, I was telling you about I won a really nice. I like to fish, and I won a really nice spinning reel for my surf casting rod, and I wrote a thank you letter to the local tackle store that had donated it, and the guy called me up on the phone. He says, I've been doing this for I don't know how many years. He said, nobody has even, I never knew what happened, to this stuff. Well, see, it's just that little kind of stuff, that can make such a difference as you move that needle. And so use the technology that's out there, folks, to really organize yourself and track the trends that you have going on. Spot the hotspots. We say when you see a fire, throw gas on it. At these kinds of things, and you can do that if you have the information at your fingertips.
It's also a lot easier to present that to your board of directors instead of sort of guessing what the popular things were last year, where your donors came from, how much they spent, who your top donors were. And your top bidders. You have the data right in front of you. It's nice and clean. It's easy to present to your board of directors as well.
Yeah, and you can make nice pictures out of it with pie charts and that kind of stuff. People love that stuff.
I think we're on to the questions and answers. Have we been getting some questions, Sam?
Yeah, we have quite a number here. Again, I guess I'll just remind everyone. If you've had any questions that you haven't submitted, you can submit them now. We have a list here, so we might not get to every question, but it doesn't hurt to ask. So I'll go ahead and get started. One of the first, we had actually a couple come in sort of related to having, I guess, like the major gift to attract people, like something like, a vacation getaway or a big dinner outing at a very nice restaurant. And kind of for the smaller nonprofits or the people having maybe smaller auctions, how do they go about getting started with drawing in those bigger gifts that can kind of, that's really what's going to attract a lot of attendees to some of these events? Like, how would a smaller nonprofit go about, getting the major gifts?
Well, that's a great question. And as somebody who's worked on both sides of that, I mean, somebody who's owned and run restaurants, and I owned and ran a hotel, to working on the other side from the charity fundraiser standpoint, I can tell you that is part of your branding. Having those signature types of things. There's a number of companies around the day that do zero cost funding. I shouldn't say funding, but zero cost packaging for big ticket items that you only pay for if they sell. So, for example, you could have there's a group called Winspire, WINSPIRE, and they put together travel, all inclusive stuff, and it's really great. They have a catalog, so you can put something from their catalog in your auction, and you put the opening bid for that at the minimum cost to it. So let's suppose it's something that it's going to cost you $1,000, but it has far more value to it than that. You put at the minimum bid at $1,000, you start the bidding there, and now anything over $1,000 is money for your organization. So it's no cost. Now, the other thing, having said that, is to develop relationships with local restaurants and work your way up. Who in your organization frequents a restaurant? Do they have a chef there? Would that chef like to show off a little bit? Have there been some stories in the newspaper about some chefs? That sort of thing. Build relationships there and sell the restaurant on why they should be participating with you. So, you just can't go to them and say, "Oh, listen, we have a great thing here. Can you give us something for it?" you need to tell them about who your attendees are and how they can, these are the kind of people who want to know more about this. Now you could have certain categories of stuff, like they could give something, but maybe you could talk some of your donors into saying, hey, listen, let's go over there for a couple of meals, and we'll have a board meeting there. So and as you build that relationship, and finally, I will say this: look for people who are already giving, because they're already giving for a reason. It's much harder to get somebody. It's much harder to get somebody who's never given somebody something to give than it is to find somebody who's used to doing this, and you can show them how you're really worth working with.
The other that I might add on to that is we had just in terms of developing a relationship. So the first year you may not have those sponsors or those donors donating a lot or as much as you might like, but you want to grow that relationship and show them what a fun event it is and how much money you are raising. So for example, we had an organization, a restaurant, donate some food to our event our first year. Well, they had so much fun with it, and our attendees enjoyed it so much that the next year the organization asked if they could be a 3-year partner with us. And in turn, this
was a national chain, right, Jeannie?
It's a national chain, yes. So they said, hey, we had so much fun. We really believe in the cause. Your volunteers, you had volunteers all over the place. It was so well run that we want to be part of this event. It was a much better event than 99% of the other events that we've been to. So they asked us for a 3-year commitment. They became our partner for 3 years, and the amount that they donated went up exponentially, as well as adding a lot of fun to the event and adding a national name to our event. So this might not happen right away, folks, but it's getting back to building the relationship so that by your 5th year, you're looking at doubling the amount of money that you made your first year.
That's a good answer, Jeannie. Good answer.
Great, thank you, guys. And also, just related to that, real quick, I'll mention that it was about 6 months ago, we had an expert webcast featuring Winspire on how to basically leverage travel for your auctions. So kind of on this topic, that's something I can include in the follow-up email here, a link to that as well for those who are interested in learning more there.
That's terrific, Sam.
That's great.
So the next question, and there's been maybe 5 or 6 sort of slight variations of the question. So I'll just kind of pose it broadly to you and let you kind of take it from there. But a lot of people are asking about, using online or mobile bidding as well as paper bidding, and I guess sort of if it's okay to merge the two and have some items that are online only, some items that are paper only, or if that's not the best practice to do, and try to stick to all online if you can, despite having, some people say their donors are typically older and might not have the mobile, the mobile device with them. So I guess, do you have any input on sort of merging the two, or if that's not a good idea?
Let me take a little stab at that, Jeanine. We make sure we distinguish too between online auctions and mobile auctions, because the online auctions, I mean, they can go on, they can be an event themselves that never has people gathering for it. I mean, the South Beach Wine and Food Festival that I used to be one of the directors for, they have a completely separate online auction that's, and you could do it on your desktop and that kind of stuff. Now the mobiles, and almost everybody knows how to do that. I mean, that's really, most audiences know how to do it. The mobile ones, that tends to be, kind of quick and fast paced, that kind of stuff. In the ebook, we talk a lot about combining the two, and I think it's a real good idea. And here's what I've seen people do. Sometimes they'll start out some items online, and then when you get to the actual on-site auction, they then go to an on-site auction, which can be paper, or it can be continued online using mobile at that point. and so the bidding starts there. I've seen people do a combination online / mobile / live auction, where and you got to be careful with that, because you don't want people bidding offline driving the price up so that it gets too much for your folks. So what we recommend for most people is start out combining them. You know, instead of making a switch all over 1 year, if you've had a lot of silent auctions and you got some live items and that kind of stuff, put in a mobile / online component, and maybe do some of your items on that, and then some of them you can only bid on by being there at the auction site, and that gets people excited too. So there's really you can combine these in all kinds of ways. Jeanine, did you have a comment on that?
No, I think it's just getting back to dipping your toe in and moving the needle. And you don't want to overwhelm your staff, your organization, your board. So it's all about, again, developing a relationship. So if do what you can handle the first year so that you look organized, you look as if you know what you're doing, and you want those folks to come back. And then next year you'll keep adding a little bit more until you feel your comfort level.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, great. Thank you. Yeah, I know that was a kind of a tough question to answer as far as specifics, but I think you guys did a good job. Next, so this one's kind of straightforward. As far as you had mentioned, having a fundraising goal and not just saying something like, you know, we want to raise as much as we can, but having a specific goal. Is that goal something you'd want to make public during the event, and whether you're close to achieving it or already have achieved it, or is that something that's just for you and the people within your organization?
Jeanine?
So I guess there are two thoughts to this. You definitely need it within your own organization to share with your board of directors, to share with your staff, so that everybody knows what kind of goal you're reaching towards. You could sort of do it retroactively and at the event say you've reached your goal. Your goal was however many, you know, $35,000, $100,000, whatever it was that you wanted to raise that night. You can do that. At our event, we actually present one of the oversized checks to the charity that is getting our fundraising for that year. And we have the emotional pull with it because we have the physicians that are associated with our charities is pediatric brain tumor research. So we have the physicians that operate on the kids and are working on the research there at the event. Again, that the emotional pull, so whatever you can do there to bring that in and introduce people to what the end result will be with the money that they've donated. Some nonprofits use the thermometer when they're trying to raise the money, and they can show all along how close they are to that. It's tough to tell until you're actually at the auction. It's a little bit different than other charity fundraising events where you know ahead of time how much money you're going to make. So I would be inclined to say that to keep it to your organization and your staff, and then announce that if in fact you have met your goal, announce that at the actual event that night at the auction.
Yeah, it's kind of it's an interesting question. I mean, it's a really interesting question. Mm-hmm. First of all, from a management perspective of managing these things, you definitely want that goal known within your organization. And of course, then you go out and you get your items, you invite your bidders and that kind of stuff, all with an idea of reaching that goal. And that's where, by the way, your tech, you're making an investment in your tech and your software. That's where that can really help you track where you went well and where you didn't do well. When you met your expectations, where you didn't meet your expectations, and where you exceeded your expectations. The danger with announcing a goal at a charity auction, as opposed to some other kind of fundraiser, is that you run the risk of making your guests feel uncomfortable that items are getting bid up to meet a goal. And so in terms of releasing that goal to your public, your base, your donors there, I'm not as comfortable with that, just because at an auction, I wouldn't want to feel like I'm bidding on something and the pressure's on me to bid more so I can meet a goal. When I'm bidding on something, I'm bidding on something that I really want. And, so I think a lot of people feel that way. Now, at the end of the night, announcing how much you raised is a spectacular thing to do. And that's where, again, having this, your tech, your software in place where you can get that kind of feedback immediately is a great thing. So, excellent question. No, I don't believe in releasing the goal at the auctions. Hey, we're gonna stay here and bid on stuff tonight. I'm going to sell my jacket. We haven't got enough. Here's my jacket. We got to get more money in here. Because remember, in bidding in auctions, the psychology is letting people feel like they're getting something special at where they couldn't get it someplace else.
And I think the goal here is, if I can interject one more thing, I think the goal here, the real goal, is to make everyone feel as if they're part of something successful. Mm-hmm. So it's not necessarily that you've reached X amount of money. It's that you were part of a successful event. Oh. Folks had fun. You raised a lot of money. You can release that afterwards, and you can particularly do that to your donors/sponsors. That's always a good idea. We send out postcards that we just kind of order from Vistaprint. We have our logo on the front, and we have printed how many people came to our event and how much money was donated to our charity of choice that year. And it's a very upbeat postcard. You were a part of this, and thank you so much for participating. So again, folks are coming away from it thinking that this was a really successful event. If you put the number out there ahead of time, as Bill said, you run the risk of you're there just to make money for the organization, and you're also there with the it could be that you didn't reach the event and reach the goal, and folks think that they're not successful at that point. So you never want anybody feeling that way. So there are different ways of showing that it was a big successful event.
Sure, great. All right, so we're just up against it. We have about 2 minutes left, so I want to get to this last slide. Where we kind of have our special offers for our attendees. I'll speak on behalf of Ready Set Auction real quick, and we have a special offer in place right now that if you sign up by August 31st, you're going to save $300 on your sign-up fee. So again, you can check out ReadySetAuction.com. That's listed right there, where you can learn more and get in touch and answer any questions, or we can answer any questions that you have related to using Ready Set Auction for your next event. And then Jeanine and Bill, I'll let you speak to your 50% off coupon code there.
Sure. Go ahead, Jeanine. Our video course is fundraisingeventsmadesimple.com, and we are offering for the attendees of this webinar 50% off. The discount will be applied at the checkout, and the code for this is the word auction, which should not be really a surprise to anybody. This is a four-hour video course broken up into 15-minute increments, and what that means to you is that you can skip around in the video course to see what is most important for you. It might be, how do I get more donors, or it might be, how do I brand myself successfully and my event successfully. The subtitle of our course is 12 Action Steps to Make Your Next Event Bigger, Better, and Easier. So this applies to any type of fundraising event, whether you're doing a 5K, a charity auction, a golf outing. We have the same 12 action items, and also each action item is followed with an in-depth look, a behind-the-scenes case study of our Cupid's Cranium 5K. And again, that kind of opens up, behind the scenes, opens up the curtains to show you behind any type of fundraiser a particular case study, which can help you out in all your different fundraising events.
Yeah, you revealed your entire budget for the event, and in there it's really quite a case study. It's all video lessons. It's fantastic, along with a 75-page ebook.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah, definitely check that out. All right, so we are just out of time. I just want to remind everyone you'll be receiving an email with the recording and the slides, hopefully by tomorrow. And I just want to, again, thank Bill and Jeanine for doing this. That was a great presentation. A lot of very good information out of there. So thank you, guys.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, everyone.
Sam. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
And we'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thanks.